Revealed, how a touching encounter with a new maid inspired the millionaire's son to walk again. Alex had it all. Money, charm, the perfect life. But one fateful night, a tragic car accident shattered everything. Now, at 23, he sat in a luxurious wheelchair in a mansion that felt more like a prison. Paralyzed from the waist down, he felt trapped under the expectations of a wealthy family who no longer knew how to connect with the son they'd lost. The laughter of parties, the warmth of friendship gone. Alex drifted through his days in a fog, suffocated by loneliness. Then came Rosa, the new maid from a small town in Mexico. From the moment she entered his life, she was a whirlwind of energy. With her vibrant laughter and sunny disposition, she seemed like a bright spark in his dim world. Despite her struggles to support her family, she carried hope like a badge. She didn't care about wealth, she was driven by purpose. Each morning, as she cleared the breakfast table, she shared stories of her mother's sacrifices, her voice laced with determination. "We have to keep trying, no matter how hard life gets," she'd say, igniting a flicker of something deep within Alex, something he thought he'd buried beneath his despair. Their conversations began to build tiny bridges in the chasms of his isolation. Rosa challenged him to see the world differently. "It's not about what you have, but what you do with it," she reminded him gently one day. Her tales of hard work resonated with Alex. In the middle of his luxurious breakfast spread, her words cut through the weight of his privilege with startling clarity. He found himself listening, genuinely captivated, as she brought him stories from dreams of a brighter future, a future he had long abandoned, but with closeness came vulnerability. The annual community fair approached, and for the first time, Alex felt a twinge of enthusiasm. It was a chance to show everyone, including himself, that he could take steps towards a new life. The pull of his former self tugged at him, the million-dollar golden boy looking to reclaim his crown. He decided he would walk on that stage, despite the fears weighing heavy on his heart. Yet as the fair loomed closer, so did the pressure, overshadowing his vision. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night before the event, Alex lay wide awake, a storm of emotions roiling in his gut. Doubts bubbled up, crashing like waves against the shores of his confidence. What if he fell? What if everyone saw him fail, and in that moment his privilege felt like a weight too heavy to bear? The next day, surrounded by the buzzing crowd, he felt their watching eyes. After shaky breaths, he stood tall. He focused on Rosa's encouraging smile, but as he took those first steps, his legs betrayed him. He fell, embarrassment washing over him like a tidal wave. Silence followed, a deafening pause before whispers echoed through the crowd. In that moment of utter defeat, a realization surged through him. He could choose to define who he was beyond money and societal expectations. Just as despair threatened to consume him, Rosa rushed to his side, her presence rekindling his flicker of hope. "You're not alone," she said, resolute. Alex locked eyes with her, feeling the weight of possibility. But could he rise again, in more ways than one? The air hung thick with tension. Whispers turned into a low murmur as Alex lay on the ground, his heart racing in time with the rapid rise and fall of his chest. He felt the stares, the curiosity mixed with pity, coming from every direction. Yet, none of it mattered when he looked into Rosa's eyes. Her unwavering gaze was like a lifeline thrown to a man adrift in an ocean of doubt. "No one expected you to do it perfectly," Rosa said softly, her hands clutching his shoulders, grounding him. "Every step is a victory." The warmth of her encouragement cut through his embarrassment. Slowly, with her support, he pushed himself to his feet. The world around him faded into a blur as he focused on the moment. The crowd was there, but he was finding his way back to himself more than ever. Alex could feel the weight of their disbelief shifting, like sand underfoot. The murmurs quieted as he pushed forward, gingerly placing one foot in front of the other. He wasn't walking for them. He was reclaiming a piece of himself lost to the depths of despair. With each movement, his confidence began to build. And those moments when his legs felt unsteady were eclipsed by the overwhelming need to prove to himself that he was still capable of more than just existing. When he took a step and then another, something inside him stirred, a forgotten flame igniting. Cheers erupted from the crowd, voices rising around him like a wave of relief and excitement. He was taking steps, yes, but more than that, he was making a statement. Rosa's joyful laugh broke through the chaos, her shouts of encouragement ringing in his ears. "You're doing it. Keep going." Each word soundtracked his movement, echoing the support that began to weave through the crowd like a tapestry of hope. The freezing grip of despair began to thaw as warmth spread from his heart to his limbs. Suddenly, in the midst of this whirlwind of realization, a figure pushed through the crowd, his mother. The shock on her face, her wide eyes brimming with tears, summoned a complexity of feelings in Alex. He had long worried what his family thought about him now, how they saw their son reduced to a body that couldn't function as it used to. "Alex," she gasped, taking in the sight of her son, doused in determination. In that moment, he simultaneously felt her pride and a twinge of guilt for dwelling so long in his own shadows. That it was more than just about walking. It was about healing the fractures that had formed within their family, about learning how to come back to each other, especially after so long of being distant. He didn't want her to see him this way, lost and defeated, but he was learning to be vulnerable, and that was terrifying and freeing at once. Then, just as victory was within his grasp, something cold and sharp cut through the warmth of the moment. A voice broke through the cheers, slicing the atmosphere. "Is this how low you've fallen, Alex? Struggling for sympathy?" The piercing words came from a former friend, someone who once defined who he was, now turned into a taunting presence. Alex froze, an icy hand gripping his heart. Could this moment still hold value in the eyes of those who once revered him? His breath quickened, anxiety sweeping through him like wildfire. Was he still just the millionaire's son, now a spectacle for entertainment? In that instant, a choice lay heavy before him, to fold under the scrutiny or rise above it. He looked over at Rosa, who was shaking her head in disapproval of the interloper's words, her fierce spirit igniting a fire inside him. He had the power to define the narrative of his life. As he squared his shoulders and took a deep breath, he prepared to respond, fighting against the echoes of his past. But what would he choose to say? Could he truly reclaim his identity even in the face of mockery? The crowd fell silent, waiting with bated breath, and all eyes turned to him. What would he reveal now? The air was electric, charged with the uncertainty of the moment. Alex could feel every eye on him, their unspoken judgments resting heavy on his shoulders. He had worked hard to get here, to find some semblance of himself after everything he'd endured. Yet here, under the weight of that one cruel voice, all his progress felt delicate, like a glass sculpture on the verge of shattering. "Why do you care what they think?" Rosa's voice cut through the haze, fierce and unwavering. She had a way of seeing right into him, peeling back the layers of doubt he had wrapped around himself. Her belief in him was a beacon, pulling him back from the brink. "I care because it's all I've known," he admitted, barely above a whisper. "I'm not just fighting for me. I'm fighting for the boy everyone remembered." He took another deep breath, the air cool and crisp in his lungs. Looking out at the crowd, he recognized familiar faces, friends, acquaintances, even former mentors. Each one of them had a past version of him etched in their minds. Did he really want to come back as the version they created, or fight for one of his own making? Clearing his throat, he felt words bubbling up within him, each pulse of his heart synchronizing with his rising courage. "You can see me here, struggling. But let me tell you something, this isn't just a plea for pity. This is more than just walking." A ripple of anticipation spread through the crowd. Some leaned forward, eager, while others were frozen, unsure of how to process this unexpected turn. "I lost myself for a long time. I fell into a pit of darkness, and for a while, it felt safe, he continued, voice gaining strength as he spoke. But each step today is a step toward the light. It's not about looking for sympathy or compassion, it's about finding the strength I forgot I had. As he spoke, he could see heads nodding, a connection forming. People began to shift their perspectives, not as onlookers but as witnesses to his journey. He could no longer see their eyes filled with judgment. Instead, he saw understanding, a shared experience of struggle. And to you, he directed his gaze toward the figure who had thrown the first punch, still standing off to the side. I understand your need for an audience to validate your own inadequacies. But I promise you, this is not my downfall. This is my fight back. A low murmur resonated from the crowd, a wave of support crashing over him. Fear fell away, replaced with a sense of empowerment. And in that moment, he felt lighter, like burdened chains were being cast off. It wasn't about how others saw him anymore. It was about how he saw himself. Rosa smiled brightly, her approval lighting a fire within him. He took one more step, this time with purpose. The applause began in small bursts but grew into a roar of encouragement. Their voices were a reminder he wasn't alone, that the road ahead, though long, was now filled with a community standing behind him. But just as he lowered his head, basking in triumph, another voice broke through the unmistakable, icy tone of someone he dreaded even more. You think you can just walk away with all this acceptance? You're still nothing without money. It was his father. The crowd shifted, whispers rising again. Alex's triumph felt like a distant memory, those shadows looming large once more. He clenched his fists, emotions boiling to the surface. What would he do now, with this darkness re-emerging? Would he let it drown him again? And as he turned, his heart pounding, he knew this moment would demand more than he ever imagined. Would he let his father's words shatter his progress, or would he finally stand on his own, unyielding and empowered? The choice lay before him, heavy with possibility. In that tense moment, something cracked inside Alex. His father's voice had always carried a weight, but today, it felt like a lead weight pulling him down, ready to drag him back into the depths he'd fought so hard to escape. He didn't want to spiral into that dark place again, where self-doubt devoured his every step. Rosa's supportive presence buzzed beside him, but he could feel his father's gaze, cold and judgmental, piercing through the warmth of the crowd's applause. He took a deep breath, clenching and unclenching his fists to dispel the heavy feelings. Money? He echoed, his voice steadier now, bolstered by the cheers around him. That's what you think defines me? Not the struggle, not the journey. It's more than just dollars and cents. The audience stirred, caught in the clash of his pride and his father's harsh reality. Some shifted uneasily, the cheers reduced to murmurs as they felt the tension surrounding him. Alex, his father pressed, stepping closer. You think this is enough? You think you can just speak and everything will magically change? You need connections, wealth. No. The word erupted from Alex like a dam bursting. All those emotions he had bottled up surged forth, raw and unfiltered. I don't need your money. I need to be seen for who I am now. I'm not just your son, I am me. And I swear, I will make something of myself, with or without you. The crowd shifted again, caught between shock and admiration. They saw not just a son standing up to his father but a young man claiming his life back. A ripple of approval washed through them, lifting him higher. Rosa stepped forward, eyes blazing with pride. That's right, Alex. It's about where you're going, not how you got here. You have a strength that's yours alone. The crowd's energy shifted, now fueling Alex with each word of encouragement. He pulled himself up taller, feeling that shadowy figure of his father begin to dim behind the powerful glow of his supporters. I may not have the wealth you think matters, but I do have this. My voice. My strength. My story, and I will share it until my legs can move no more. He looked across the crowd, his heart beating fierce and wild. Did they believe in him just as much as Rosa did? It seemed they did, as hands began to clap and cheer, rising to a crescendo that echoed through the park. But just as Alex began to revel in that feeling of victory, he caught sight of a figure at the edge of the crowd, a young woman nervously fidgeting, her eyes wide with uncertainty. She seemed out of place and lost, like a lighthouse beacon in the fog. Something inside him stirred at the sight of her. There was a vulnerability in her expression that mirrored his own past struggles. What was her story? What darkness was she navigating, and how did it connect to his own? He felt an undeniable pull towards her, recognizing that sometimes, the most profound connections come from shared battles. "Hey! You!" he called out, his voice slicing through the applause. The crowd turned, curiosity palpable in the air. "What is your name?" The girl blinked, almost startled by the attention. Her cheeks flushed as she took a small step forward. I'm Mia. I didn't expect to be seen." He finished for her. "You are not alone in this. We're all fighting our own battles. Let us fight together." The crowd began to stir again, drawn into the moment unfolding before them. Suddenly, Alex realized that this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about connection, community, and shared experiences. Would he be able to help Mia find her own strength amid the chaos? As he watched her hesitant smile begin to form, a spark ignited within him. What awaited him in this journey, both for himself and for others, was an adventure he hadn't anticipated. And even as his father's voice lingered in the back of his mind, Alex felt a new purpose take shape. The fight for his life had opened the door to helping others, and in that, perhaps he'd discover not just the strength to walk but the strength to truly live. But would he have the courage to face the darkness again when it came? Mia took a small step closer, her eyes brightening with each word Alex spoke. She seemed to find strength in his vulnerability, just as he did in hers. I feel like I'm just lost," she admitted, her voice shaky, yet laced with a quiet hope. "I've been running from my own shadows." "Running's exhausting," Alex said, his heart pounding in rhythm with the crowd. "Maybe it's time to stop. Let us find a way to face them together." He reached out slightly, the distance between them closing, though the countless unseen walls were still there. She inhaled deeply, a flicker of courage igniting within. "You really think we can? I mean, can I really be a part of this?" "Absolutely," Alex said, his voice steady. "Everyone here has felt lost at some point. Let us create a space where we can all find ourselves, where we lift each other instead of waiting for someone else to hold us up." He glanced around, noticing the audience leaning in, their collective breath held. The air was thick with possibility, a tangible awareness that something significant was blossoming right there. The smiles had returned, heads nodded in agreement, and for the first time that day, the cheers filled the space again, this time, not just for him but for a shared mission. Mia hesitated again, taking in the warmth of the crowd and the sincerity in Alex's eyes. "I don't know how to start," she confessed. "Neither do I," Alex replied, humor twinkling at the corners of his eyes. "But maybe starting starts with just being honest. With ourselves first, then with each other." The crowd murmured, caught in the moment of vulnerability shared between two young souls. Laughter bubbled out from somewhere in the edge of the crowd, a reminder that hope often rises amidst sorrow. As Mia smiled, something shifted. It felt like the earth beneath their feet had solidified, a ground built from trust. "Let us talk," she said, the resolve in her voice palpably stronger. "I have stories to share too." That prospect excited Alex. Their stories would connect them, weaving a tapestry that might even envelop others around them, like the warmth of a well-loved blanket on a cold night. He could already see how their paths could intertwine, turning fear into something beautiful, but just as thoughts of collaboration swirled around him, Alex remembered his father, that unyielding gaze still lingering at the back of his mind. Had he really stepped out of that shadow, or was it merely the sun shrouded by clouds? Together, he repeated more softly, this time to himself than to Mia. "We've got to keep reminding each other that the fight is worth it." Mia nodded, her newfound determination bubbling to the surface. "It like that. But how? Let us start small," Alex suggested, his mind racing with ideas that sparked excitement. "Maybe share our stories here, right now. Who says we can't have our own moment?" A pulse of energy coursed through the crowd again, as they reacted to this new idea. The applause built, encouragement pouring out in waves. But the reassurance mixed with anxiety boiled within Alex. "Okay." Mia took a deep breath, pushing through her nerves. "But can we take turns? I want to hear your story too." "Definitely," Alex smiled, his heart swelling with hope. As he prepared himself to share, a new thought surfaced, heavy and weighty. What if vulnerability unleashed more than they bargained for? Mia's warmth flickered like a candle flame, urging him on, but he couldn't shake that feeling of uncertainty. What could be uncovered in the telling of their truths? "Let us do it," he said, eyes bright, even as a gnawing doubt lingered. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, the crowd roared erupted again, cutting through his uncertainty. It felt like the walls of doubt might finally crumble. Will we really be able to find strength in each other's stories? He wondered as the cheers pulsed louder, resonating deep within him, what truth might be revealed in that moment of shared vulnerability. And more importantly, would it be enough to quiet the storm surging within him? As Alex stood there, the energy of the crowd enveloped him like a warm embrace. For a moment, he was caught in the sheer exhilaration of sharing stories. But beneath that excitement lay an undercurrent of fear and hesitation. His breath felt shallow, like he was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap but unsure of what lay below. Mia caught the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Hey, we don't have to do this alone," she said softly, stepping closer again, her presence grounding him. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." "Together," he echoed, breathing out slowly. He cast a fleeting gaze across the crowd, their faces wide with anticipation, each person representing a story of their own. It hit him then, they were all tangled in the threads of hope and fear, just like him and Mia. "All right," he began, his voice trembling but gaining strength. "I guess my story starts back when I thought I had everything figured out. Perfect grades, a scholarship to a great college, a family that pushed me to be everything." He paused. The abrupt clarity in his voice caught even him by surprise. "But I lost more than I gained in the chase for perfection." The murmurs among the audience softened, hanging on his words. "I thought success would make me happy, but it was all just noise. When life threw a curveball my way, I wasn't ready. I stumbled, and I fell harder than I ever could have imagined." Mia nodded, the realization dawned across her face, as if she could see through his pain. "You're not alone. I felt that way too." Their shared vulnerability filled the gap between them, and a spark ignited the air. "Okay, Mia. Your turn," Alex invited, a smile starting to form. "Let us hear your story." Mia took a deep breath, the weight of her own truths coiling inside her. "I don't know how I ended up here," she started tentatively. "I was the girl who always masked her feelings. I ran away, thinking if I could just go, I'd find happiness. But wherever I went, I couldn't escape myself. We wear masks for so long, don't we?" Alex said, a knowing smile crossing his face as he leaned in. "Yeah," she chuckled lightly, her laughter a soothing balm that drifted through the crowd. "And one day, after constantly moving, I realized I was the only thing in the way of my own happiness." The crowd murmured in recognition, their reactions a wave of shared understanding washing over them. It was daunting yet liberating at once, the shared honesty buzzing with a collective energy. "I want to take back control of my life," Mia finished, her voice steady yet full of conviction. It was as if a communal sigh went through the audience, as if they all felt uplifted by her courage. Alex felt the hellish storm brewing inside him slowly calm. "See?" he said, excitement bubbling in his chest. "Just by sharing our stories, we're creating a bridge. Others need this too." Encouraged by their exchange, others in the crowd began to step forward. "What about me?" A voice called out, shaky but filled with determination. As stories unfolded around them, the energy transformed into a beautiful symphony of human experience, each thread weaving into a larger narrative. Alex and Mia exchanged exhilarated glances, thrilled as connections formed around them. But just as he began to relax into the moment, a loud noise abruptly pierced through the atmosphere. A commotion erupted on the side of the gathering. "Is everything all right?" Alex called out, heart racing once more. Was the harmony they built about to splinter apart? The crowd shifted, pulling their attention in a new direction. The anxious whisper of uncertainty crept creeping back into Alex's mind. Just as he thought they were on the brink of something beautiful, it seemed chaos was ready to intervene. What awaited them there could determine whether the connection they cultivated would withstand the impending storm. Alex squinted into the crowd, instinctively moving closer to Mia as the noise escalated. The sound of raised voices became sharper, breaking the melodic flow of shared stories. He could feel the tension shifting, electric and palpable. Something was happening, and uncertainty loomed like dark clouds on a sunny day. A figure emerged from the throng, shouting, "Get away from him." A tall man, visibly agitated, pushed through the group, his face flushed with anger. Behind him, a smaller silhouette, an older gentleman, struggled to keep up, his eyes darting anxiously. "What is going on?" Mia whispered, her voice barely audible, but the concern threaded through it was clear. "I don't know," Alex replied, peering closer. The previously warm atmosphere had turned heavy with confusion. As the crowd parted, it became apparent that a confrontation was brewing. The younger man, his brow furrowed, hands clenched, stopped abruptly. "You can't just drag someone like this," he shouted, his voice cracking with frustration. Alex and Mia exchanged concerned glances. The tense energy felt at odds with the openness they had just fostered. "Let us try to calm this down," Alex suggested, his heart thudding in his chest. He stepped forward, hoping to bridge the gap between chaos and understanding. "Is everything all right? What is happening?" The newcomer turned, surprise evident on his face. "My dad, he has got a history of getting lost, and this guy thinks he can just take him away without me." The man gestured back toward the figure trying to calm his father, who seemed disoriented and lost in the sea of unfamiliar faces. Mia took Alex's hand tightly. They shared a moment of silent reassurance, grounding each other as the crowd started to murmur, anxious for a resolution. "Sir, let us just talk," Alex said gently, trying to ease the anger without inflaming it further. "We can help you find your dad. We're all here together. No one wants to cause trouble." As he spoke, the older man finally caught Alex's eye. It was a bittersweet moment. Recognition flashed across both their faces. The flicker reminded Alex of the warmth they had just created, a shared place filled with acceptance. "Dad," the younger man breathed, relief flooding his tone as he turned back to the man beside him. "We're here. Just stay with me." "I don't know where I am, son," the father mumbled, confusion shadowing his features. The crowd held its breath, witnessing the raw emotion of the moment. Taking a deep breath, Alex moved closer, his own vulnerability echoing the connection around him. "It's okay," he said softly, mirroring the warmth he had felt moments ago. "You're safe. We all want to help." As the father met his gaze, something shifted. The anger in the son's shoulders began to relax, and the crowd seemed to breathe as one. Voices quieted, and it was clear everyone was rooting for calm to win over discord. But then, just as peace began settling back into the air, a soft cry broke through, an unexpected sound like a pebble dropping in a still lake. Alex and Mia turned their heads to see a little girl off to the side, her face streaked with tears. "Mommy!" she sobbed, reaching toward the crowd with desperate hands. In that instant, what began as a personal conflict spiraled into something bigger, a network of needs and fears intertwined. "Is your mother nearby?" Mia called out, concern flooding her voice. The little girl nodded, still crying. She was just here." In a heartbeat, worry rippled through the people gathered. What if they could turn this moment back to connection rather than chaos? As Mia and Alex exchanged knowing looks, they understood they had to step in again. With the threads of vulnerability and attention woven back into the crowd, they moved forward once more, determined to find a way to reconnect. But what if this encounter led to even deeper revelations hidden beneath the surface? "Let us find her," Alex said with newfound resolve, turning to Mia. "Together." And as they plunged into the crowd, racing against time and fear, a realization struck him: sometimes, chaos can lead to the most profound connections, but what would they uncover next? The crowd swirled around Alex and Mia, a chaotic blend of worry and confusion. The little girl's cries echoed, an urgent reminder that they had to act swiftly. It felt like a heavy fog settling in, wrapping around them, pulling them deeper into the swirl of emotions flowing like an unseen river. "Can you help her?" Mia's voice broke through Alex's thoughts. She was already scanning the faces around her, hoping to find someone familiar with the little girl's distraught gaze. He nodded, but he could feel the weight of responsibility press against his chest. "Let us keep moving," Alex said, urgency pushing him forward. "We'll find her mother." They weaved through the crowd, hearts synchronized in their mission. With each step, the little girl's sobs seemed to resonate within him, igniting a fierce protective instinct. It was something deeper than the fear of chaos, it was the raw truth of connection, the necessity of being there for one another. "Mia, can you ask if anyone has seen her mother?" He shouted over the rising tide of voices, each syllable amplifying the desperation that hung in the air. "Sure," Mia replied. A flash of determination coursed through her as she turned to a nearby group of people, calling out to them. Alex felt pride swell in him. Her courage met the moment's instinctual needs. As he scanned for signs of the little girl's mom, he caught sight of the agitated man and his father again. The father looked slightly calmer now, but there was still a hint of fear lingering in his eyes. It struck Alex that this was more than just one man's search for his father, it represented the collective uncertainty they all felt in moments like these. There was a powerful bond circulating within the crowd, a need to protect, to restore that sense of calm that had slipped away. A voice broke through the din. "This way." Mia waved from a few yards ahead, her face lit with purpose. A woman, frantically searching, had just stepped into view. Relief flooded over Alex as they hurried toward her. The little girl, sensing hope approaching, sprang forward. "Mommy!" she screamed, her little legs pumping with joy. At that moment, the woman turned, recognition dawning on her face. Alex felt the air shift like fresh sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. The depths of anguish were suddenly transformed into a soaring joy that filled the space that he watched as the woman knelt, arms outstretched, enveloping the girl in a warm embrace. Gasping for breath, the child clung to her with sheer desperation, as if they were two halves of the same whole. Without hesitation, the crowd around them began to cheer, a wave of shared relief that mirrored the love binding mother and daughter, but just as the atmosphere began to settle, he noticed an unsettling tension creeping back into the air. The father, still standing near his son, looked lost again, confusion washing over him. The younger man's frustration began to bubble up once more, now clouded with the noise of the celebration. "Dad, please," he pleaded, his hands running through his hair, grappling with the urgency of the moment. "Just stay still." Alex couldn't walk away from the turmoil brewing in front of him. The contrast between joy and fear felt too stark to ignore. He took an involuntary step toward them, the pull of their struggle magnetic. "What about him?" he murmured, glancing toward the older man who was glancing back, eyes clouded with uncertainty. How could this simple moment hold the power to bridge the gap and break the facade? Mia noticed his hesitation. She reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "You don't have to do this alone," she whispered, her gaze steadying him. As Alex's heart raced, he understood this was bigger than the lost father or even the crying girl. It was a reminder that within the chaos, they held the potential to reach across boundaries that usually separated them. But would they find a way to mend the rift? "Let us see how we can help them too," he said with quiet resolve, ready to step into yet another layer of complexity, and just then, the collective realization struck him. Sometimes in searching for others, you also find pieces of yourself, but what revelations would lie ahead, waiting to be uncovered? As Alex approached the father and son, he noticed the tightness in the older man's jaw and the way his hands trembled slightly. The despair was palpable, hanging in the air like a cloud refusing to move. "Hey," he began, unsure of how to penetrate the fortress of frustration and fear that surrounded them. The younger man glared at Alex for a moment, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and a desperate plea for understanding. "He won't listen to me," he said, voice taut. "He thinks he can find his way back alone. It's like he can't see the situation for what it is." Alex glanced at the older man, who was scanning the bustling crowd, as if hoping to spot a familiar face amidst the moving sea of strangers. "Sir," Alex said gently, trying to bring him back to the moment. "You're not alone in this. We're all here, trying to figure things out." The father's gaze darted back to Alex, confusion swarming in his eyes. "I just want to go home," he muttered. "I can't lose him too." Alex felt a pang of empathy. He knew that feeling all too well, the overwhelming fear of loss and the desire to protect. "You won't lose him," Alex assured softly. He ventured forward, his instincts guiding him. "How about we all just pause for a second, take a deep breath, and talk this through?" Mia stood close, her presence giving him strength. She shot Alex an encouraging smile, hoping to ease the tension. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a granola bar. "Here," she offered, extending it toward the younger man. "Sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves in moments like this." At first, he hesitated. But then he took the snack, looking at Mia as if she'd handed him a lifeline. It was a small act, but the way it shifted the energy was remarkable. "Thank you," he said, his voice softer now, a hint of gratitude seeping through the armor. The older man finally met Alex's gaze, confusion still clouding his eyes but now laced with a glimmer of something more, hope, perhaps. What do you think we should do?" he asked, vulnerability breaking through the surface. Alex felt a surge of purpose. "We face this together. You don't have to handle it alone. Just like that little girl found her mother, you can find your way back too. Let us figure it out." The son seemed to reassess his father, perhaps seeing the flicker of resolve igniting within him. "Dad," he urged, his voice firm yet tender, "you need to trust me. Trust us. We'll help you find what you need, but you have to let us in." The older man nodded slowly, as if awakening from a long slumber. The crowd around them began to ebb, the waves of worry replaced by a shared intention to support and uplift. As they stood together, Alex felt the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. They were all strangers, yet connected by something that rose above fear and innate longing to share in one another's burdens. Just as the air began to settle, Alex spotted a flash of movement near the periphery. An elderly woman, with a knowing warmth in her eyes, approached them slowly, her frail frame moving with surprising grace. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked the father gently, her voice like a soothing balm. Before anyone could respond, she continued, "I once lost my husband in a crowd much like this. It can feel like an eternity, but together, we found our way." Her words hung in the air, offering reassurance and wisdom. It was a reminder that healing sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. As the scene unfolded, Alex felt the thrill of connection simmering beneath the surface, a tremor that hinted at transformation. What revelations would emerge from this encounter? And as he wondered about the impact of their shared experience, he couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps something far larger than the moment was at play, waiting just beneath the surface, ready to change everything. The crowd finally began to settle, an unexpected peace spreading through the air. Alex and Mia stood close, sharing a silent understanding of their newfound mission. They watched as the elderly woman shared her own story with the father and son, her gentle presence illuminating the tension that once gripped them. Alex felt a sense of pride swelling in his chest. What started as a personal struggle now transformed into a collective journey, a tapestry of human experience weaving together connections that mattered more than status or wealth. "Let us take a deep breath," he suggested, looking at Mia. She nodded, and they both inhaled deeply, anchoring themselves in the shared vulnerability swirling around them. Their breaths slowly released, a collective sigh permeately embracing each other from among the crowd. "Thank you for your kindness," the father said, a new warmth filling his voice as he looked toward the elderly woman. "It's just I feel lost." "That's okay," the woman replied gently, her eyes twinkling with wisdom. "We've all felt lost at one point or another, and sharing that burden lightens the load." Alex exchanged a look with Mia, their hearts buoyed by the connection unfolding right before them. It was a reminder that amidst the chaos, there is comfort in community. "Let us encourage everyone to tell their stories," Alex suggested, scanning the crowd, their faces still lit with hope. "Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone has something to offer." The crowd began to murmur with excitement, a ripple of participation spreading like fire. Encouraged by Alex's call, a woman stepped forward, tears shimmering in her eyes. "When my husband lost his job, I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath us. But instead of retreating, we opened up to each other for the first time in years, and we found our way back." A resounding applause broke out, affirming her courage to speak her truth. Each story carved a little bit deeper into the understanding shared among them, probing past the facades built by fear and expectations. "Let us do this together," Mia called out to the crowd, her voice steady and confident. "Let us keep showing up for one another. We can't be afraid anymore." The words sparked a collective resolve that was tangible in the atmosphere. One by one, people began sharing their stories of loss, of healing, of hope. Alex felt the space transform into more than just a gathering. It blossomed into a community, and there it was the moment Alex realized he was never alone in this fight. He didn't have to struggle in silence or withhold his struggles behind the walls of wealth. Instead, there was strength in vulnerability, strength in shared experiences, and even as their group continued to swell, inviting more souls into their orbit, Alex thought of his family, of the gaps that still needed to be bridged. "Mom," he whispered to himself, seeking the courage to reach out to his mother, to invite her into this journey of connecting as they once had. Feeling empowered, he turned back to Mia. "Let us invite others in as we continue this journey. This isn't just our experience anymore, it belongs to everyone here." "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes shining like stars. "Together, we can build something beautiful." With conviction in his heart, Alex knew this was not an end, it was merely the beginning of a deeper connection forged through shared struggles. The weight of past expectations started to lift, replaced instead by shared dreams and collaborative journeys. The crowd roared in approval as more participants stepped forward, encouraging new faces to join in, providing uplifting support for one another. Laughter mingled with tears, solidarity knitting their souls together in ways power and wealth could never touch, and at that moment, Alex realized he wasn't just reclaiming a part of who he once was. He was rediscovering the depths of his very soul and understanding a more profound truth. It's not about the steps he takes, but about the lives he could touch along the way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a warm glow engulfed them. It felt like magic was weaving through the crowd, igniting hope and strength intertwined in their hearts. Together, they would face the storms of life, not as strangers, not as mere spectators, but as a family brought together through every tear, every laugh. A community formed from the heart. With that same collective breath held, they stood united in shared determination, ready to keep pushing forward. This was their moment, but it was also just the beginning of a much larger journey that awaited them. If you found joy and inspiration in this story, this is your moment to make a difference. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts in need of hope. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us create a thread of encouragement together, and please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It could spark a change they never knew they needed. Don't wait not even one more second to support our journey together. Only true fans understand the importance of uplifting one another through these actions.